Over 2 million Americans packed up everything and left their home states last year. Not for adventure, not for a dream job, because staying became financially impossible. Right now, 14 states are watching their populations drain like water through a broken pipe. We are talking about teachers who cannot afford to live in the districts where they teach, nurses working 3 jobs just to cover rent, and retirees choosing between property taxes and groceries. Here is what nobody is telling you about this mass exodus. The people leaving are not the problem. The systems that failed them are. And if you are thinking about moving, buying property, or just trying to understand why your neighborhood feels emptier, what I am about to show you changes everything. This is not about red versus blue. This is not about who you voted for. This is about survival economics and what happens when the American dream becomes the American bill you cannot pay. Let's get into it. Number 14. Hawaii. The median home price in Hawaii is $1.1 million. That is not a beachfront mansion. That is not Honolulu luxury with ocean views. That is just a house with a roof that does not leak. Here is what the travel blogs will not tell you. Hawaii lost over 22,000 residents between 2016 and 2022, and that number is accelerating every single year. Cost of living in Hawaii sits 88% above the national average. Groceries cost 51% more than mainland prices. Your electric bill will be 71% higher than what you pay now. Even Spam, which locals call the unofficial state protein, costs nearly double what it does everywhere else. Now you might be wondering, but what about jobs? Do not the tourism dollars balance things out? Here is the reality. Hawaii's job market is tourism heavy, low wage, and it took a beating during COVID that it never fully recovered from. Unemployment hovered above 6% long after most states bounced back. Property crime in Honolulu has been rising steadily, especially around tourist areas. But here is the twist that makes this different from everywhere else. Hawaii is not dying. It is being bought out from under the people who actually live there. Wealthy outsiders are snatching up homes as vacation properties. In some communities, more than half the homes sit empty most of the year. That is not a neighborhood anymore. That is a real estate portfolio with a mailing address. What does this actually mean for regular people trying to build a life in Hawaii? It means multi-generational households crammed into one-bedroom rentals. It means nurses and teachers working 2 jobs or leaving entirely. It means police officers who protect the community cannot afford to live in that same community. Many people are not even leaving the Pacific region. They are just jumping to Nevada or Washington, anywhere with actual jobs, affordable housing, and gas prices that do not require a second mortgage. Now let me address something people keep asking about in the comments. What about those beautiful beaches and perfect weather? Yes, Hawaii is stunning. But you know what else is stunning? The potholes. You pay $4,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment, and the road outside looks like it lost a fight with a jackhammer. Local infrastructure is crumbling while property values skyrocket. Picture this. You wake up early, step outside, and smell that perfect ocean breeze. Then you immediately step on your neighbor's slipper because 11 people live in your house and there is no space left for dignity or privacy. That is modern Hawaii for working families. Number 13, Illinois. Illinois lost over 104,000 people in 2022 alone. This was not a move for better weather moment. This was people saying, I am tired of getting financially mugged by my own zip code. Let's be very clear about something. Illinois is not some forgotten flyover state. It has Chicago, one of America's greatest cities. It has history, culture, world-class food, and a $140 billion pension debt crater that residents are done paying for. Illinois has the second highest property taxes in the entire country, averaging over 2.2% of your home value. That is $6,000 plus every single year just for the privilege of dodging potholes and watching political corruption scandals on the evening news. The state's credit rating has flirted with junk status so many times, it probably thinks that is normal. Cook County alone lost over 93,000 people in 2022. Chicago's homicide rate sits at 29.6 per 100,000 residents. That is more than double what Los Angeles sees. Here is what the statistics do not capture: the emotional weight of leaving. People are abandoning homes their families lived in for generations. They are pulling kids out of schools, leaving jobs, walking away from entire communities because the math simply does not work anymore. Even retirees are bailing. These are people who are supposed to love routine and stability. They are leaving because fixed incomes get swallowed whole by taxes and rising utility bills. Now somebody in the comments asked, what about just moving to the suburbs? Great question. Property taxes are still brutal in the suburbs. Now you just get to add 2-hour commutes and icy sidewalks that could hospitalize you. Let me talk about the roads for a second because this comes up constantly. Driving in Illinois is like playing Russian roulette with your car's suspension. You are vibing to music 1 second, and the next second, your tire is in a hole so deep it qualifies for its own zip code. Snowplows show up late, work unpredictably, and somehow still cost you money through increased taxes. Picture this. You walk outside in January. It is 12 degrees with wind that physically assaults you. You shovel snow off your car, find a parking ticket under your wiper, drive to work, and then discover your property taxes went up again. But hey, at least the deep dish pizza delivers 3,000 calories of emotional support. Number 12. Mississippi. The capital city of Mississippi, Jackson, could not provide clean drinking water for weeks. That was not a third world headline. That was Jackson, Mississippi in 2022. And it is just the beginning of a much deeper collapse. Mississippi's population is shrinking fast. Between 2010 and 2020, the state lost over 75,000 people. That is the biggest population drop in the state's entire history. People are not leaving to chase tech jobs or beach life. They are leaving because basic survival is getting harder every year. Jackson's population dropped more than 10% in the last decade. Mississippi has the highest poverty rate in the entire United States at 19.1%. It ranks dead last in healthcare quality, 46th in education, 49th in overall economic opportunity. More than 40% of Mississippi's population is functionally unbanked or underbanked. That means they do not have reliable access to basic financial services that most Americans take for granted. The infrastructure is not just aging, it is collapsing. The Jackson water crisis happened because of decades of neglect. Jobs are low wage, low growth, and often just not available. The state has been stuck at or near the bottom of economic rankings for years. Now here is the part that confuses people. Mississippi's cost of living is low, so why are people leaving? Because the quality of life is also low. You can afford a house, sure, but the school might not have teachers. The hospital might be 3 counties away. The jobs might pay $9 an hour with no benefits. What does it feel like to live in Mississippi right now? It feels like being left behind while the rest of the country moves forward. It feels like watching your kids grow up and knowing they will have to leave to have any real opportunities. It feels like running on a treadmill with half the belt missing and still paying taxes for the privilege. Here is what nobody talks about. Mississippi is beautiful. The culture is rich and deep. The history matters. The people have soul. But that soul is being drained out slowly, structurally, family by family. Somebody asked in the comments about the humidity. Yes, the humidity in Mississippi deserves its own criminal charge. You step outside and you are instantly drenched in sweat. The mosquitoes are not insects. They are flying syringes with wings. You do not swat them, you negotiate with them. Number 11. West Virginia. Since 1950, West Virginia has lost more than 1 million residents. That is nearly half its peak population. They did not all leave for better coffee shops. Most left because the jobs left first. West Virginia was once the beating heart of coal country. Now it feels like a ghost echo of industrial America. Between 2010 and 2020 alone, the state saw a 3.2% population drop. That is the fastest rate of decline in the entire country. The coal industry collapsed. Automation took what was left. Opioids filled the vacuum where hope used to be. Over 60,000 residents lost in just the last decade. Charleston, the state capital, has shrunk by 10% since 2010. West Virginia ranks 51st in workforce participation. Yes, 50% first. It has one of the highest overdose death rates in America. The job market is stagnant. Broadband internet access is patchy at best. Young people leave straight after high school and never look back. The cost of living is low here, but so is the cost of leaving. And that is exactly what thousands are doing every year. Living in West Virginia means trading affordability for isolation, limited opportunity, and in too many cases, a front row seat to the opioid crisis destroying communities. This is not just population loss. This is generational gutting. Entire towns are turning into museum pieces held together by nostalgia and Dollar General stores. Now let me address what people keep bringing up. Yes, West Virginia is gorgeous. You cannot throw a rock without hitting a scenic overlook. But try getting broadband internet fast enough to stream video. Try working remotely when your connection drops every 15 minutes. The Wi-Fi in parts of West Virginia is so slow that emails feel like they arrive by horseback. You cannot work remote unless your definition of remote includes yelling into the void and hoping someone hears you. Here is an honest question. Could you actually live somewhere with no Starbucks, no Uber, no real job market, but absolutely killer mountain views? Some people can, most people cannot. Number 10. Alaska. Alaska lost more residents in 2023 than it gained through births, jobs, or that annual oil dividend check combined. Surviving in Alaska is not a lifestyle. It is a full-time job. Between 2016 and 2023, Alaska saw 7 straight years of net population loss. More than 25,000 people left. Many of them young, educated, working-age residents who are exactly the people a state needs to thrive. Anchorage, the biggest city, lost 12,000 people since 2013. Alaska has the highest cost of goods in the entire United States. Grocery prices run 40 to 50% above the national average. Gas often tops $5 per gallon. Heating oil costs will shock you if you have never paid for it before. Healthcare access is extremely limited. Some residents literally fly to Seattle for medical treatment because the options in state are so sparse. Violent crime rates in Alaska consistently rank in the top 5 nationally, driven largely by high rates of domestic violence and sexual assault. These are not feel-good statistics, but they are real, and they affect whether people can build stable lives. Living in Alaska feels cold, expensive, and very, very far from everything, including other Americans. People move to Alaska chasing beauty, freedom, and wide-open space. They leave when reality hits. Everything costs more. Everything takes longer. Everything breaks easier. The darkness lasts for months in winter. The roads are unpredictable. Climate change is literally thawing entire villages off their foundations. The permanent fund dividend, that free oil money Alaskans get every year, used to be a major selling point. But even that has dwindled. In 2023, it was $1,312, down from nearly $2,000 a decade ago. Let me talk about the daylight situation because people always ask about this. You go from zero sun for months to suddenly it is 3 in the morning and still bright outside. Your body completely forgets what time means. You are exhausted at noon, wide awake at midnight, and occasionally having a breakdown in the grocery store because blueberries cost $9 and the sun will not let your brain shut down. Imagine stepping out your front door into a wall of white silence. Mountains loom everywhere. The air is so clean it almost stings. The only sound is your neighbor's snowblower attacking the roof. That is Alaska, stunning and isolating in equal measure. Number 9. Oregon. Oregon lost more residents in 2023 than it gained through births, jobs, and Portland-based microbreweries combined. And the reason is not just the rain. Oregon used to be the darling of coastal culture. Forests, food trucks, flannel shirts, and independent bookstores. Now it finds itself in the middle of a quiet but powerful exit. Why are people leaving? Because underneath all the vintage aesthetics and indie vibes is a state struggling with basic quality of life issues. Oregon saw a net population decline of over 16,000 people in 2023. That is the second year of negative growth. Portland alone lost nearly 30,000 people between 2020 and 2023. Violent crime in Portland rose 207% from 2019 to 2022. Oregon ranks 4th highest in the nation for homelessness, with over 18,000 unhoused people in 2023. Cost of living in Portland sits 34% above the national average, with median rent at $1,800 per month. Between crime, cost, and chaos, people are tapping out. Living in Oregon used to mean artistic freedom and weekend forest hikes. Now it means stepping over used needles on your way to yoga class. It means paying premium rent and having your car broken into again. It means realizing that progressive policies do not always translate to practical results. People are not leaving just because of crime statistics. They are leaving because they feel unheard, overtaxed, and surprisingly unsafe in a place that used to feel like home. Here is the irony. Oregon still has incredible beauty. Bend is booming. The coast is cinematic. The food scene is legitimately world-class. But none of that matters if you do not feel secure walking to your car at night or paying your energy bill without sacrificing something essential. Somebody asked about Portland traffic. Let me paint you a picture. You sit stuck for 40 minutes behind a Subaru with 6 bumper stickers that all say variations of slow is safe. Meanwhile, someone on a unicycle zips past you on the sidewalk carrying a kombucha fermenter and yelling about defunding parking meters. Cool aesthetic, terrible commute. Picture this. You grab a craft latte made with 3 types of alternative milk from a cafe called Sage and Voltage. The sky is gray. Always gray. You take a deep breath of mossy Pacific Northwest air and immediately sneeze because the mold count is 8,000. That is Portland in one moment. Number 8. New York. Over 800,000 people left New York in just 2 years. That is almost the entire population of San Francisco just gone. So if New York is so iconic, why is it bleeding residents like a broken faucet? New York is the city that never sleeps, mostly because it is too busy calculating rent. From the outside, it looks like Broadway lights, bagels with actual personality, and hustle culture turned into an aesthetic. But inside, the ambition tax is real, and it charges compound interest. The state lost over 820,000 people between 2020 and 2023. New York City's cost of living sits 137% higher than the national average. Average monthly rent in Manhattan tops $5,200. For what? A window that opens into an alley and a radiator that screams like it is possessed. Property taxes upstate are brutal, some of the highest in the nation. Crime in New York City surged after 2020, with felony assaults hitting a 15-year high in 2023. The emotional math does not add up anymore. People came to New York to make it. Now they are asking if making it is worth the mental burnout, financial beatdown, and one-bedroom closets that somehow qualify as apartments. Even upstate is not spared. Cities like Buffalo, Rochester, and Syracuse are losing people fast. Not from high rent, from stagnation. Fewer jobs, shrinking schools, a Rust Belt vibe that never got its comeback story. Here is the kicker. For the first time in decades, more people are moving from New York City to Florida than the other way around. Yes, the state with hurricanes and alligators now feels less chaotic than New York. Let me talk about the smell, because every New Yorker knows exactly what I mean. It is July, 92 degrees. The garbage juice is fermenting on the sidewalk like cursed stew. You dodge puddles that may or may not be alive. Somehow a guy still tries to sell you a $6 pretzel. Yes, New York has the Met, Central Park, and pizza that ruins you for life. But it also has apartments that cost $3,000 a month for essentially a closet with a hot plate. Landlords disappear faster than Batman when you ask about heat or repairs. Imagine this. You are walking home from work, sweaty, stressed. Your phone is at 3% battery. The train smells like a crime scene. You pass a guy playing saxophone next to another guy screaming at a pigeon. Weirdly, you kind of love it until rent is due. Then you call the moving company. Number 7. Louisiana. In Louisiana, the music plays louder than the warnings until your home floods, your job disappears, your insurance gets canceled, and your electric bill costs more than your car payment. Welcome to one of the most culturally rich states in America and one of the fastest losing residents. Let me be clear, I love Louisiana. The food is legendary, the music is haunting, the culture is unmatched, but unfortunately none of that pays the bills or holds back a Category 4 hurricane. Louisiana lost over 43,000 residents between 2021 and 2023. New Orleans alone has dropped over 100,000 people since Hurricane Katrina and still has not fully recovered. The state has the second highest murder rate in the United States. New Orleans often tops the national charts for homicides per capita. Louisiana ranks 50th in infrastructure quality, 47th in healthcare, 46th in education. Average household income sits around $55,000, while insurance costs are skyrocketing because of worsening storms and rising sea levels. Why are people leaving? Because when insurance companies literally start pulling out of your zip code and your power grid fails during a light rain, you stop calling it charming and start calling moving companies. Jobs are scarce outside Baton Rouge or oil-adjacent industries. Even in New Orleans, wages often do not match cost of living, especially when you factor in flood insurance, rising rent, and utilities that spike like jazz solos. Climate risk is real here. Louisiana loses about a football field of land every hour to coastal erosion. Let that sink in. One football field, every hour, gone into the Gulf of Mexico. The humidity deserves its own section. You walk outside in August, and it feels like stepping into a wet sock someone microwaved. Your sunglasses fog instantly. Your clothes stick to your skin. Every mosquito within 3 miles files a flight plan straight for your ankles. Now imagine this. You are walking through the French Quarter at sunset. Brass music floats down the street. Someone hands you fresh beignets. The air smells like spice and soul and smoke. Perfect moment, right? Then a boil water advisory hits your phone. A $4,000 insurance bill hits your mailbox. That is Louisiana. Magic immediately followed by a financial punch in the gut. Number 6. California. California lost over 800,000 residents in just 3 years. Enough people to populate an entire new mid-sized city, preferably one with fewer wildfires and rent you can actually pay. The Golden State's shine is looking pretty tarnished these days. Let me get this out of the way. California is gorgeous. Mountains, oceans, redwoods, world-class food. The whole dream package. But then reality shows up wearing flip-flops and carrying a $7 gas receipt. California has had 3 straight years of population decline since 2020. San Francisco lost 8% of its population in just 2 years. Los Angeles County lost over 300,000 people. California has the highest gas prices in the nation, often $5 to $7 per gallon. Median home price sits around $800,000 statewide. Well over 1.3 million in many Bay Area cities. California ranks in the top 3 for highest taxes, including that 13.3% state income tax bracket for high earners. Add in escalating theft, worsening homelessness that tops 40% in some counties, rolling blackouts, and wildfires that treat August like festival season, and the California dream becomes the California bill. Here is the emotional reality. People did not leave because they wanted to. They left because staying started feeling like financially drowning themselves on purpose. It is the little things. Paying $4,000 a month for a studio apartment where your bathroom door hits your mini fridge. Being told your power will be shut off to prevent fires while fires are already burning everywhere. Even up-and-coming cities like Sacramento and San Diego are feeling the squeeze. Jobs are not keeping up with costs. Middle-class families are becoming a vanishing species. Teachers, nurses, tradespeople all getting priced out. California still has opportunity, but increasingly only for the wealthy, the extremely lucky, or people who inherited property from a boomer with perfect timing. Let me address the driving situation because people always bring this up. Why does every California driver think turn signals are optional? You merge onto the 405 and suddenly it is Mad Max Prius edition. People switching lanes like they are being chased by invisible demons while blasting indie pop. La parking deserves its own horror movie. You will circle longer than your last relationship looking for a spot. Picture this: warm sun, ocean air, palm trees swaying. You grab a smoothie that costs $14 because it contains Reiki-charged blueberries. Life feels cinematic. Then you check Zillow and the house you toured costs $900,000 and has a driveway that looks like a crime scene from 1984. That is California in 2026. Number 5. New Jersey. They say the grass is always greener, unless you are in New Jersey. Then it is toll booths, traffic, taxes, and a cost of living that punches your wallet in the throat. New Jersey has been bleeding residents for years. In 2024, it is not slowing down. Jersey lost over 38,000 people in 1 year. That is like the entire population of Atlantic City saying, "Yeah, we are good," and leaving. Cost of living runs 13% higher than national average. Property taxes are the highest in the entire country. Number 1. Not second, not third. First, median rent in Hoboken is $3,200 per month. For what? A shoebox with roommates. Commute times are some of the worst in America. Crime in cities like Newark and Camden still runs above national average, especially violent crime. Here is a quote from an actual local. Living in Jersey is like paying New York City prices without getting New York City, just the traffic and the attitude. You ever pay $1,200 a month just to get honked at in a parking lot and wait 47 minutes for a bagel? That is New Jersey. Let me talk about the Jersey Turnpike. I have driven through actual war zones that felt less aggressive. Every mile feels like it is daring your suspension to give up. The potholes are terrifying. The drivers act like turn signals are a sign of weakness. New Jersey's population decline is not just about people moving. It is about people giving up on a lifestyle they cannot justify anymore. The middle class is being pushed out. Young professionals are heading south. Retirees are running to Florida faster than you can say exit 9. Newark is seeing outbound migration plus total affordability collapse. Camden still struggles with poverty and crime. Trenton is losing young talent and cannot figure out how to keep people. With rising property insurance, utility costs, and transportation fees, people are realizing it is just not worth it. Meanwhile, just one state over in Pennsylvania, you get lower taxes, bigger yards, and they still have bagels. Here is an honest question. Would you rather live in Jersey for the bagels, or just visit for them and leave your wallet intact? Also, can we talk about how they call it the Garden State when the only green thing you see is a $400 utility bill? Number 4. North Dakota. There are more cows than people in North Dakota. And even the cows are starting to look at real estate listings online. Let's talk about a place where winters can kill you, job markets are disappearing, and unless you work in oil or agriculture, your best entertainment option is watching snowdrifts form in real time. From 2022 to 2024, North Dakota lost over 4,000 residents. That might not sound like much, but for a state with fewer than 780,000 people total, that is like a small town vanishing overnight. This is not just about population numbers, it is about momentum, or, in North Dakota's case, the complete absence of it. Cost of living is surprisingly moderate, but wages have not kept up. The job market is bleeding. Non-oil industries are shrinking fast. The state lost nearly 5,000 jobs outside of energy in 2023 alone. The climate is brutal. Fargo gets 50-plus inches of snow with temperatures dropping to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. The isolation is real. You can drive for 2 hours and see more deer than humans. Education and healthcare access is decent in Fargo or Bismarck. Everywhere else it is spotty at best. North Dakota has what I call the Middle America trap. You move there for low housing prices and peace and quiet. Then you spend 5 years trying to convince yourself you do not mind blackouts, zero entertainment options, and a dating pool smaller than your local bingo night. The emotional toll is real. People leave because they feel stuck. Talented college graduates flee to Minneapolis or Denver. Remote workers do not stay. Retirees head south with their pensions. Minot got boosted by an oil boom and is now bleeding residents. Dickinson has declining job prospects plus rising rents. Bad combination. Williston went from being called the Texas of the North to a tiny boomtown hangover. Here is the state motto they should use. Come for the opportunity. Stay because your car froze to the ground. When your morning routine involves snow tires, 2 jump starts, and praying the power grid holds, you start asking yourself deep questions. Like, did I choose to move here or did I get trapped in a frozen social experiment? Compare that to South Dakota next door, where property values are climbing and cities like Sioux Falls are actually gaining new residents. Meanwhile, North Dakota is the cold twin who still listens to dial-up modem sounds for fun. Number 3. Connecticut. If Connecticut were a drink, it would be 3 parts nostalgia, 1 part crushing taxes, and garnished with quiet desperation. Connecticut used to be the model student in New England, Ivy League pedigree, coastal charm, Gilmore Girls vibes with better pizza. But in the last few years, something shifted hard. Between 2021 and 2024, Connecticut lost over 40,000 residents, many of them high-income earners or young professionals. That is not a blip. That is an evacuation. What is making people leave the nutmeg state faster than you can say Bridgeport traffic? Cost of living is one of the highest in the country, 31.1% above national average. Property taxes are brutal. Connecticut has the 3rd highest property tax rate in the United States. Crime is not off the charts, but cities like Hartford and New Haven have higher than average violent crime. Median home price tops $360,000. And that is not even in the fancy areas. The job market has an aging workforce, slow growth, and declining appeal for major industries outside finance or insurance. Connecticut is where you can live next to a beautiful colonial church, commute 90 minutes, and still pay more in taxes than someone with beachfront property in Florida. Why does everyone in Connecticut drive like they are auditioning for the fast and the passive-aggressive? Half the state drives BMWs going 80 in school zones. The other half tailgates you in a Subaru with a coexist bumper sticker. Parking in Stamford will cost you $15 just to think about parking. Residents are not just leaving, they are escaping. Ask someone who left Connecticut why, and you will get a full monologue. Retirees are packing up for Florida. Millennials are moving to Boston or New York City. Families are fleeing to any state where you can afford a backyard without a six-figure salary. The emotional cost is huge. People report a growing sense of economic fatigue, working forever, paying endlessly, getting very little lifestyle payoff in return. With winters that drag on forever and summers that spike utility bills, it is no wonder moving trucks are pointed toward the exit. Picture this, it is fall. The leaves are so perfect they look photoshopped. You walk down a tree-lined street with coffee in hand, admiring old stone walls. Then your property tax bill arrives in the mailbox like a jump scare from a horror movie. Here is the irony. Connecticut's education system ranks near the top nationally. Yet half the young talent graduates and immediately takes the nearest exit ramp out of state. Connecticut has everything and still drives people away. That is almost impressive. Number 2. Pennsylvania. You know it is bad when a state famous for Hershey's chocolate starts tasting like regret. Pennsylvania is where American history was born. Now it is where modern residents are slowly ghosting their own zip codes. Over 100,000 residents left the state in the past few years. We are talking working-class families, retirees, college grads. Philadelphia might have the cheesesteaks, but it also has a side of, please get me out of here. Over 40,000 residents lost in 2023 alone, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Average housing prices rising 8% year over year, while wages stay flat. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh both rank in the top 25 U.S. cities for violent crime. Job market growth has stagnated. Pennsylvania ranks 43rd in job creation, according to WalletHub. Taxes are middle of the road for state income tax, but local taxes hit especially hard in places like Scranton and Allentown. Pennsylvania is like the friend who peaked in high school. It had the Revolution, the Constitution. Now it just yells at people from the porch. Let's talk about the roads. Driving in Pennsylvania feels like playing Mario Kart on the worst custom track ever made. There are more potholes than actual lane lines. Your GPS says 20 minutes, but that is just how long it takes to escape the CVS parking lot. Tolls multiply faster than rabbits. Why are people really leaving? It is burnout, cost fatigue, crime frustration, a growing sense that things used to work here and do not anymore. Residents say they feel stuck in a state with no upward mobility. For a place filled with historical charm from Gettysburg to Erie, when day-to-day life does not match the nostalgia, people stop sticking around. Meanwhile, Idaho. Yes, Idaho is pulling in young professionals while Pennsylvania loses them to Delaware. Let that sink in. Delaware is winning. Pennsylvania ranks 48th in net happiness scores in recent surveys. Their state mascot might as well be seasonal depression wearing a hoodie. Number 1. Wyoming. Coming in at number 1, the state so empty your voice echoes across zip codes. On paper, Wyoming looks like the rugged American dream. Wide open skies, no income tax, more elk than people roaming free. Dig a little deeper, and you find the dream doing a slow, silent vanishing act, kind of like Wyoming's population. Since 2020, Wyoming has lost thousands of residents. For a state with only about 580,000 people total, that is massive. Some towns are shrinking faster than jeans in a dryer set to maximum heat. Over 2,500 people left in 2023 alone. That is like half of Gillette just packing up and leaving. Cost of living is surprisingly high. Energy costs, groceries, healthcare all push expenses up despite low housing prices. The job market is unstable. Coal, oil, and gas jobs dominate, but those sectors are bleeding workers. Housing is cheap, but inventory is almost zero. Want to rent? Prepare for a 60-mile commute. The climate brings brutal winters, dusty summers, and constant 30-mile-per-hour winds that whisper, "Get out while you can." Wyoming's unofficial motto should be "Come for the tax breaks. Stay because your moving truck got snowed in until June." Look, I love a good cowboy fantasy as much as anyone, but Wyoming is a place where your nearest neighbor lives an hour away. You need four-wheel drive just to check your mailbox. The local mall is a gas station that also sells bear spray and beef jerky. Dating. Good luck unless you are really into horses. Emotionally, Wyoming is isolating. Financially, unless you work in energy or government, you are probably cobbling together side hustles and asking the mountains for career advice. People are not leaving because they hate Wyoming. They are leaving because opportunities are drying up and infrastructure cannot keep up. Rural hospitals have closed. Broadband internet is spotty. Winters are long and brutal. Hope feels seasonal. Picture this: a sky so clear you can see every single star, pine trees everywhere, silence, crisp mountain air. Then a moose walks through your yard. You lose cell signal. The only grocery store within 90 miles is closed for elk hunting season. Wyoming might be the only state where you experience total freedom and complete isolation within the same 15-minute drive. Here is what all of this means. 14 states are losing people fast. Not because Americans suddenly hate their hometowns, because the systems that made those places livable are breaking down. Property taxes crushing families, infrastructure crumbling, jobs disappearing, crime rising, insurance companies pulling out, schools losing funding. Now, somebody always asks in the comments, where are all these people going? Great question. Most are heading to states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Idaho, places with lower taxes, growing job markets, and functioning infrastructure. But here is the problem nobody wants to talk about. When people move, they often bring the same voting patterns and policy preferences that created the problems in the states they left. Colorado saw this. Arizona is seeing it now. It is like moving chairs on the Titanic. If you vote for higher taxes, more regulations, and bigger government, then move somewhere affordable, then vote for the same policies, you are going to create the same problems all over again. Some people get this. They leave California or New York specifically to escape those policies. Others do not make the connection. The bottom line: your zip code is one of your biggest financial decisions. Where you live determines your taxes, your job opportunities, your kids' schools, your commute, your cost of living, and increasingly, your quality of life. These 14 states are not just losing people, they are losing their futures. When young families, working professionals, and retirees all leave at the same time, what is left is a shrinking tax base, failing schools, and cities that look alive until you check the numbers. If you are thinking about moving, do not just look at pretty pictures and vacation vibes. Look at tax rates, crime statistics, job growth, infrastructure spending, school quality, where the population is actually growing versus shrinking. Because the American dream is not dead, it just moved. And if you are not paying attention to where it went, you might wake up one day and realize you are living in one of these 14 states wondering what happened.